here. Oh yeah,
That's one
Deloitte
thing I miss
Wolfgang.
about Comic Con. Actually,
Right?
it's just like meeting all the other different artists
Yeah,
and
for
just
sure.
making other friends.
All the camaraderie as well.
Well, and the
And
people
everybody.
in our chat has probably heard this 100 times, but I mean that's kind of why we created our Artist Alley series, because I mean that's one of a lot of people's favorite thing to do is go visit the artist, talk to the artist, get to know the artist, see them actually do art, and right now we're all kind of
Stuck at
missing
home.
that. We're stuck
Yeah,
at
we're
home and
stuck.
missing that. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
me being who lives in San Diego right now, I'm minutes from downtown San Diego, and I hate the fact that there's not a 500,000 people crowding the streets right now. It breaks my heart.
Comic Con, like I'm a fairly introverted person, so like most of the cons like make me really tired at the end of the weekend. But Comic Con, I think, was like the only convention where I felt energized from it. It was just because of like the sheer amount of like talent that was in the artist alley that I've
I think
never
that's
seen
what it
before.
is. Yeah, they kind of draw
Yeah.
the best from around the world, like yourself, to come together, and it's impressive. It's almost overwhelming. You know, you kind of feel like your creative juices are re-energized. I like it. Well,
Well,
anyways, we should probably start this off then, since we do have people in here now. Welcome to the Secondary Heroes Artist Alley here on the Nerded Unite Network. Today we have Elaine Ho with us, who's an artist. Welcome. My name is Prague, by the way, for those of you who are new to Secondary Heroes. The other two guys, would you like to introduce yourselves?
I'm DeLorean Wolfgang, hence why I have a DeLorean in the background.
And I'm Trevor, your
Oh,
usual
I should have worn
co-host.
my San Diego shirt.
Oh, well.
I might
I
have
don't,
it right back in
I don't know
my-
where my shirts are, anyways. I just put on whatever's clean.
I might have my
days.
shirt on that pile of clothes on my hood.
And we had
so.
Oh,
a couple artists collaborate on this. A couple of our
Yeah.
aspiring artists.
yeah, which will hopefully will join us in the chat today as well and ask some questions. But yeah, welcome, Elaine. It's just great to have you on our show. Your artwork that I have displayed behind me is absolutely fantastic and detailed and wonderful.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Now, would you mind giving a little background for anybody who doesn't know who you are and whatnot, and how you got introduced into art?
Okay, so I was born in America, but I grew up in Singapore. So you can kind of tell by the accent that I have is a bit all over the place.
It's okay.
So is mine. What's my excuse?
So I grew up essentially without really having any art education because art is not really prioritized in Singapore. They prefer like STEM stuff. And
It's
I
not
basically-
prioritized out here in America either, but yeah. Should be.
I think America has more opportunities for art than Singapore.
Agreed,
But yeah, so I just went through college doing psychology. Essentially, I graduated with a degree in psychology.
Wow.
I left Singapore to do college in Ohio State University. Did that and got a degree in psychology. Went back to Singapore, did like admin work for about 2 or 3 years because I didn't know what to do next. And then I decided that I should be a lawyer. So I wound up doing the law SATs, and I got all my recommendation letters from the professors, and basically had the application just ready to go. And I just took a moment and realized that I was just so unhappy doing this, and I realized like this isn't what I want to do. So I spent another half a year trying to figure things out again, and I came across the concept art for Assassin's Creed 2.
Ooh, one of the best.
It is the best, and I think I really like the Renaissance period, the Italian Renaissance in particular, and I think it just kind of like ignited that passion. And I looked at that and I was like, you can make money from this. This is an actual job. And so I was like, I want to be a concept artist. So I wound up looking at schools and stuff, and it was Art Center College of Design that kind of came up as the foremost kind of school for people who want to be concept artists. So I went there. I applied, got rejected, applied again, and I got in, thankfully. And then kind of spent about 3 years there. And I wound up doing concept work for theme parks. So Universal Studios, so the Harry Potter land, Springfield Land.
Wow.
I kind of worked on those.
Nice.
There's a Warner Brothers park in Abu Dhabi, which I also worked on that as well. And
I
then
want to
after
go
that,
there.
well, everything's air conditioned, so it's like I
Oh,
think
that's
it's
even
much better.
better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So after that, I kind of switched to doing VR experiences,
Oh
virtual
my
reality.
God. You're like
So
my favorite person right now. This is amazing. Everything you're saying, I'm loving, except for the
I
Ohio State Buckeyes thing.
are you from Michigan or like?
No, I'm a Florida Gator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at least we had that 2006 runs against the Buckeyes, but yeah,
Right.
for a little bit we were butting heads. So
Like all I know is that we hate Michigan. Michigan hates us, and
yeah.
I remember going from Singapore to Ohio, and you have to take like multiple stopover flights, and I had to stop in Michigan, and the immigration officer would not let me through because like he threatened to not let me through. I think it was just kind of like a
Yeah,
joking
yeah,
thing, but I was
yeah.
like, at the moment,
Oh, God.
what I say, like I don't want to.
That's so funny.
So anyway, yeah. So VR experiences. We did kind of a short trailer called "The Artist File," I think, and then Mission ISS, and I think Blade Runner 2049. And we did a little bit. I worked a little bit on the Disney VR thing.
Oh,
Wow.
So that was pretty much it. And then after that, I think I just got tired of working for other people and doing kind of their vision. And I had my own stories to tell. And this was kind of when the Disney Women's series came about, where a lot of the work that I did in the studio was very um, uh, photorealistic and
okay.
photo bash. You like 90% of the work is, you use photos and you just kind of compile them together and send it out to the 3D guy who will make it better. And I don't really like using photo bashing in my work. So the Disney Women series was kind of a way for me to like unwind after work, kind of painting things by hand, painting water by hand, painting like faces and hair and details and all that stuff.
Amazing.
And I think, and that kind of took off in a way that I didn't really expect it to be.
Yeah.
And after that, I just kind of realized that, well, I think maybe what I want to do is actually illustration and not concept art. I just want to paint pretty pictures. I don't,
Right.
I don't intend to problem solve everything. And yeah, so I wound up becoming an independent artist, and I've been that ever since for about 3 years now. Just kind of doing the Comic-Con circuit.
Right.
Yeah.
It's quite the
Wow,
journey.
what an amazing story. You were going to be a lawyer.
Well, good choice.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't think I would have been a very good lawyer. I don't think.
Who knows? But still,
my
either way.
sister is a lawyer, so at least my parents are happy.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't really do much art growing up as a kid? Was that not really your thing? You just kind of came to later? And you're
Yeah.
like,
I think, well, art was not really a priority in Singapore. Art was considered kind of like where the dumb kids, like if you failed chemistry or
It's
biology
insane.
and all that, you just do art, because you can't do anything else. So, you have a lot of pressure to not be the dumb kid.
Right.
So
Which
I
is
just want to
insane.
do that. Yeah,
Because there's so much skill and intelligence that goes into illustration and drawing
absolutely.
that people don't, I guess, realize.
I completely agree. I think the it's changed a little bit since then, but I did see that there was a bit that went viral on Twitter about like the top 5 non-essential jobs, and that was a newspaper clipping from Singapore, and artists were like the number 1 non-essential worker, and I'm like, oh, it hasn't really changed, has it?
So that's funny that's the number 1, because if you think about it, I mean, the movie industry is considered art. Music is considered art. You take entertainment away from people and they have nothing to latch onto. They have nothing to do for fun in a way. It's mind blowing to me. Like if we said, okay, well, entertainment, art, not essential, then that just, I mean, good luck going to a movie theater and being entertained a year from now.
I mean,
The
even the
irony
car
is
that you
that-
have behind you is also designed by a
Thank you,
car designer.
yes.
So it's like
It's
everything
art.
surrounds us is all designed,
Right.
and it's kind of a shame that people don't value
And
it
artists
as
can work
highly.
more during quarantine than anybody else.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
true.
Ironically enough, yes. You don't have to be bothered by
Unreal.
the outside pressures. Yeah, that's funny. Well, very nice. So, what exactly did you learn in school? Was it art altogether? Was it just specifically design, illustration?
So my major was entertainment design. So
Oh,
it was
okay.
specifically to make us concept artists for
Okay,
games
so you really
or
did
whatever.
focus on that. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I did very well in it because the whole point of concept art is to create multiple like thumbnails to show how you would problem solve a particular thing. But I always latched
Gotcha.
onto like the first idea that I saw, and I was like, I don't need this. Like I don't need to continue drawing. This is the answer. And I
Right.
didn't do very well at that either. So
Yeah,
That's funny.
that's so. So you mentioned that you were working a lot with like water. You said watercolors, right?
no,
Or
I mean like
paints.
I do most of my stuff digital. I mean like
Really?
painting things digitally, but like not using like shortcuts. Like if you want to paint like a landscape with water in it, usually in concept art you would just take a photo of some waves and just paste it in there because
Right.
you don't want to paint every single bit of foam.
Oh my
by hand.
goodness. Yeah, exactly.
So the painting behind Prague essentially is all almost hand painted. Like all the leaves and everything were all hand painted. Usually, you just kind of throw a photo in it too.
Right. But all hand painted digitally.
Yes,
Now, what program do you use?
I was just about to ask the same thing.
Photoshop.
That seems to be
Again,
the new
Photoshop.
answer.
Yeah, that is the hot answer right now. A lot of our
Like
so
3 or
when we
4 of the
first
last
started,
ones, yeah.
yeah, when we first started, a lot of folks were, or a lot of our artists were saying that Procreate is the one that they're using on their iPads and whatnot. We've had a few where still working on pen and paper is how they work, and Photoshop has been kind of a hot answer lately as well.
And we didn't realize that it was something you could do in Photoshop, like Illustrate.
Right.
Right. The reason why that I have Photoshop, it's not because like I have any customer loyalty to Adobe and all that stuff. They can go fuck themselves.
Exactly.
But
Paying what $1,000
take.
for sweet.
yeah, hot take, yes. The reason why is because I built my own PC and like
Wow.
Photoshop is the only thing that can like sustain the insane amount of layers that I have on my work.
Okay.
We'll probably be bringing up a video of my process afterwards, but
Oh my god, I would love that.
but yeah, Procreate because I think it's only on the iPad.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because you can use their iPad pen or whatever, the Apple Pen,
Yeah.
to get the details.
Right. And the problem is like the specs on any Apple computer just does not support the amount of layers the amount of processing power that I need.
I mean, just look at the picture behind me. I mean, like it was mentioned in the chat just now. It looks like a legit oil painting.
Yeah,
it's digital.
I'm mostly influenced by like Renaissance, basically,
Right.
again, Renaissance artwork. So Caravaggio, Michelangelo, all that stuff, and I try to mimic that as close as
My
I
favorite
can.
Ninja Turtle. Yeah.
I'm actually scrolling through your Instagram right now, and I'm just blown away by the absolute just detail on each piece. Like there's nothing left out. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Isn't it? So, was it like working for those big companies? Was it like demanding and annoying, or did you find some kind of fun in it and rewarding aspects to it?
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna try and see how close I can toe the line here.
They are
I
listening.
think. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying. So no one, they're not listening. Don't worry. Say what you want.
It's good to be diplomatic, I think it's mostly because of my own temperament, where I'm not very good at taking direction, and I'm not very good at leading either. I prefer kind of being a lone wolf and kind of doing my own thing. I do try and take direction, but I kind of realize that it's not really a thing that I really want to do. I prefer just kind of going my own path and making my own decisions rather than having a design settled by committee, and particularly with people who, don't really know what art or design is.
But you have like studio people, they don't know.
Yeah.
Here, what's going to sell better? No, that's too, yeah.
I had a piece of client feedback to me in one of these studios, I won't name which one, where they claimed that the moon looked too feminine. And I was like, what do you want me to do? Like, what do you want me to do?
How is that
with the moon?
give the moon a big heart on. There you go.
Or a mustache.
There's your moon with a boner.
Give it a beard or something. I don't know.
A beard? Give it what?
It's so weird.
So you have kind of feedback like that, and I think there's some people who are more tolerant than I am about stuff like that. But for me, I seem to have, because I think I'm also an introvert, and any sort of stimulus just makes me sad. So I just kind of realized that kind of environment, a collaborative environment, isn't really for me. It might be for other people, but not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, but here I am on a podcast with several other people each week.
Yeah, Prague.
I just want everything to do it my way. That's funny. Yes, we're going to open up to questions to the chat as well. So if you guys have any questions for Elaine, please post them. Anything about like explain maybe a bit about like your process. I know we're going to see it, but explain like how you kind of start with a concept.
Well, I think because I was brought up with digital primarily, and I used a tablet for most of, I still use it today. So there is a hand-eye disconnect. So my line work actually isn't very good.
Okay.
I don't draw very well, but I paint well.
Fool me, man.
So you see that in the process video where my line work is just absolute garbage, and I don't follow any of it until I don't follow any of it basically. So I just kind of paint and search for shapes and search for looks that look fine, and then it kind of it's a very gradual process rather than the line work is there and everything else is just render. And I'm sure that a lot of the other artists that you've interviewed kind of do that. Like Peter Wynn, I think is I love his work. He is a god at drawing. I sat next to him at Emerald City.
Watching him draw last night was insane. I was like, oh my god.
It is. He is a god at what he does, and I absolutely cannot do anything that he does. So my process is definitely a lot more less structured. It's just kind of like,
but it still creates an
feeling.
amazing result. I mean, look behind me. You still are able to create something out of that. It almost feels like maybe your line work is more just your base to go, okay, that's where that's going to go.
Yeah.
More than like, oh, this is exactly how it's going to look.
Right.
Which is fine. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you. Thank you for validating the way that I draw.
No, there's always different ways like to become like what we have learned here by interviewing all these different artists is that there's always a different way to approach art and how to start the process. It's not always the same way.
Right.
Like in my head, when I went to school, like I thought I was going to be an artist, and I took that design class, and I'm like, I can't do this. I didn't realize there was other avenues to get into art. I'm like, I just can't do that.
You still can.
I know.
Yeah, you still can.
I know I can.
She was going to be a lawyer.
True.
Just because you're a podcaster doesn't mean you're not an artist, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I am.
Well, cool. We actually do have we have a couple questions that did come in. One is from Mark. He asks, does she create her own presets on Photoshop when she creates her artwork? They look really amazing.
Presets as in...
I don't know if you have like preset layers or preset. I know you can do presets in Photoshop. I don't know what he's referring to. Maybe it's, I don't know.
I do have a list of brushes that I use. So these are all preset brushes that I bought off
tools brushes.
Gumroad
and
and he
brushes.
Is saying tools and brushes. That's what he means, I guess.
I also do. You'll probably see this in the speed paint in the video again. But I do have a swatch of colors that I use. And these are mostly cribbed from Renaissance paintings. I just use them all the time. It just makes finding colors easier. So those two things I mostly use.
It's like I almost don't want to be on screen because your picture's so nice.
Yeah, right? Seriously, get out of there. Now, one thing that we like to ask a lot of our artists is really who like influenced them to do the type of art that you do. Do you have any influences?
The first artist I think would have been Linda Berkovist. I don't know if you guys know of her. She was a very popular artist in the early 2000s, and she basically did work like the one that you see behind Prague. It's very beautifully lit and it's very lush and magical. And she did a lot of like fantasy, like with high elves and fae stuff.
Yeah, it's probably the stuff I've seen because that's where I hang out a lot. Comic-Con is that alley there.
She was incredibly popular on like CG Talk or CG Society. I can't really remember which website it was. But yeah, she was one of my big idols when I was a young teenager trying to get daily deviations on DeviantArt.
Oh yes.
But yeah, that was her. And then I think after that, I kind of gradually went back in time to the Renaissance masters, and I don't really have that many contemporary influences anymore. It's just looking at old people that have died, basically.
Right.
Still, that's amazing though. That it's great to know that we can go back and look at that art and get the influence enough to want to recreate or add on or create our own in their likeness type of thing. It's very cool. Yeah. We do have actually, Trevor, you want to take the second question?
Yeah, this comes from Valor and Vellum, who was our artist guest on Wednesday, and she says, "Do you use models for anatomical reference?"
Yes, all the time. I use my husband as a reference. Nice. I take pictures of him. I sometimes use myself. I know, right?
Just have him stand still for a long period of time.
Occasionally, I try to scour like Google for but yes, I never start a piece without using reference. That especially in the style that I do, which is kind of it pushes towards more realistic than stylized. So anything that you would see on this kind of style would look out of place if you don't use reference. So,
sure.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, very cool.
Let's see.
And we had another one from Mark. Hey, Mr. Osario. How long does it take for you to finish one piece? Sorry, I have it written down in a very small font over on the side. So,
it takes me on average about 2 weeks to 3 to complete a single painting. That's because I'm very, very slow. I think I used to be able to kind of cobble together a piece back in my concept art days, like, in a few days. But now it's kind of like with the quarantine and everything, and you don't really have anything to do. So it's nice to kind of take your time and go, sure. Like, this is exactly the way that I want her finger to look.
Nice. Well, and right now you got the time to really perfect it.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. We've got another one. Do you have a favorite piece that you've done?
I do, but I don't have it. I can't show it right now.
Okay.
Oh, is it something that you're working on right now?
I do. So I'm actually making my own story. It's called The Tempest and the Fire. So it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling of my own. And I kind of
awesome.
I have a Patreon going on. So my Patreons kind of get early access to the stuff that I make. So
let's get your link. We'll put it on the chat so people can look it up and try to
join your Patreon.
Be your Patreon.
Yeah, so it's patreon.com/Art of Elaine Ho. If you search for Art of Elaine Ho on any kind of social media, you should be able to find it.
Awesome.
Thanks to it. Very nice. That's exciting. So is it going to be like an actual storybook with words, or is it just going to be your paintings kind of telling the story?
I do have a full manuscript written. I envisioned it as an illustrated novel.
Sweet.
Which is kind of interesting because when I go to Comic Cons, I see a lot of artists who are also doing illustrated novels, and we just kind of share stories about how like the actual traditional publishing world doesn't seem to like illustrated novels very much. So you see a lot of them on Kickstarter. Right. So I think that's kind of like eventually the path that I would go to. But yeah, it's an illustrated novel. I think, well, you can go to tempestandthefire.com to see all of the artwork that for that particular story thus far. It's kind of formatted kind of like a web comic,
Right.
in that there is a big picture and there's an excerpt underneath. So you can go ahead and take a look at that as well. That is my current project.
Well, I think it would probably take off because you have Tales from the Loop, which was kind of based on one. Um, that was based on one of those kind of novels that were illustrative. And
Right.
that,
Yeah. I
it
think
got a deal.
illustrated novels are slowly making a comeback.
I hope so.
Yeah, but
That'd be fun.
I hope that they take off as well.
That's exciting. Very nice. Okay, that's that same question. 228. Actually, we're almost halfway through. Probably should do your speed through soon. So if you want to get that ready while we fire up some more questions.
Oh yeah, sure.
One question I did have was for your Disney series, how did you choose to go like a more darker path? Like I know that aerial picture where her feet are all bloody on the rocks, like when she first has legs. It's a different take on usually portraying Ariel.
Yes. So the story for the Disney Women series actually came about while I was at Disneyland with my husband. And I asked my husband, who's your, that just as a joke, right? Who's your favorite Disney princess? You know, like, and I thought that he would pick like a girly, you know, very feminine woman or whatever. And he said, Tinkerbell. And I went,
Huh.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah.
Why? And he goes, okay, there are 4 reasons. One, she's actually the second in command to the Lost Boys. She's actually pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And two, the Lost Boys all listen to her when Peter Pan is away.
She's scary. Yeah.
Yeah, and we kind of like put this kind of story of that she's consumed by jealousy, and there is part of the story, but
Heck yeah, it is.
Behind it, there is actually she is actually a pretty powerful figure, and I went and I realized that, yeah, like all of these Disney women actually have stories of power and strength, and we kind of see that in the film, but not in the merchandising. And in the merchandising, you kind of see them in very feminine poses, like, you know, the hip is stuck out, and you know,
right,
hair, and there's like a lot
They're
of frilly
sassy.
dresses everywhere. Yeah,
right. Sassy.
And sure, it works for merchandising, but that wasn't. I didn't connect to that, so I wound up creating this whole series as to like remember the strength and the particular characteristics that they had in the film that resonated with me, and for an Ariel in particular, you know. You leave your entire family behind, everything that you know, to emerge into a culture and a world that is completely alien to you. Like that takes a lot of courage. So that's why I painted Ariel in the way that she did. Like there is nothing happy about that. It's fear. It's very, very scary.
Yeah, it looks, and that's the cool part, is looking at something that was, when you were raised, I mean, at least I was raised on Disney being light, fluffy, and just, oh, we're singing, I now have legs, to now seeing like bloody feet and like,
right.
Now she has
of your life
to
and
learn,
all this stuff. Yeah.
Right. Now she has to learn how to work in this new world. It's
a whole new world. Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, the women in our chat are saying, yeah, women of power, we love it, and thank you for showcasing how women have, you know, superpowers too. And
right.
So there you go.
For sure.
A lot of support there for that. But that's a good point that you do make. Is one that I like is when you don't see something represented that you connect with, like make it your own, do your thing. Like if you're out there right now and you're like, hey, I don't like that I'm not seeing something portrayed the way I like to see it, go ahead and do it. And it was scary, like you said, but it's usually worth it. You know,
yeah, exactly.
I've never seen people fail doing it that way.
Like how Patrick kind of does his 25 Cent Wonders. It's like I think he was the first one that kind of pioneered that look of like tiny little cute people, cute pop figures on horses. I mean, not horses, like those big kid rides.
Right.
And now, like, you know, he's generated this entire subculture of people trying to mimic that style, you know.
Oh, for sure.
And almost overnight, that kind of happened. You know, people gravitate toward the different ideas. You know, so do that if you're out there in the chat. There you go.
We do have, you may have already covered this, but we do have a question in here from Jumps the Frog. He asks, how did you choose sorry, it's kind of jumbled. How did you choose the college to attend, and how much did classes you took influence your style?
The reason why I chose Art Center was because all of the concept artists that I liked at the time came from Art Center. Uh,
Okay.
it seemed like I mean, I think at the time it was the only place where it was focused towards concept art, and I knew I wanted to be a concept artist. So that's why I chose Art Center. The classes didn't influence my style at the time when I started working for the studio. Yes, uh, as of right now, my work is definitely more painterly, more oil brushy. Uh, it has I think I've kind of moved on from that. I use
Okay.
school as a foundation to kind of get better, but I think I wound up like finding my own style by looking at the Renaissance masters,
It's kind of like
basically.
the same way you use line art. It was just a base.
Right.
You moved on from there and created your own stuff on top of it. I love it. I love how that works. Yeah. So yeah, we should probably start up that speed
Yes.
run here.
Yeah.
Let me
Because we
see
keep
if I
talking, we
can.
can talk forever.
Let's see if I can share my screen.
Yeah, perfect. All
Does
right,
this work?
Wow.
should be exciting. Our fans love this kind of stuff. So
Oh yeah. This is where they really tune in.
let's do
Okay.
that.
So, did you? Does Photoshop have a way that you actually record?
No, I
Like
use
your
OBS.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
There you
So
go.
let me actually show you the final painting first, because I'm not gonna lie, Toph looks a bit like an alien in most of these the early bits. So this is what this is the final piece,
Oh,
basically. I don't know if you're
beautiful.
able to see.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's the final piece, and I am going to start the video. And three, two, one.
And if you don't mind talking us through like what you were thinking
Yeah,
at certain points.
absolutely. So this is basically the line art that I don't follow at all. So you can kind of see like I make a lot of mistakes. Her hair is not it's not supposed to be that high. I'm
Okay.
trying to I kind of get a general sense of what I want to do, which is kind of a slightly bottom down a camera looking up towards her, and
It
you know
makes
her
them look
hair.
more powerful.
Yeah, and her hair is kind of moving in a direction upwards, so it seems like rocks are kind of going flying up in
Right.
just to show her power. So I kind of do a very basic soft brush underneath it just to get the color right. You can see like my swatches, which is in the left side of the screen, just a list of all the colors that I normally use. And yeah, so the brushes
Oh my
that I
goodness.
mostly use are like these oil brushes that I got from Gretkowski. I think you can get it on Gumroad. I think he sells it for like $5, which is
Okay.
quite honestly very very cheap. And this is the part where she starts looking really crazy.
But at the same time, like it's so amazing to look at how someone does this on Photoshop. Like because I work like I've said this before. I've worked with Photoshop for years now, but I would never be able to even come close to doing anything like this. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I think Photoshop is very versatile in the things that it does. You can paint and you can kind of do graphic design and pretty much anything on it. So yeah, this is the part where I try to start like uh, rendering her face, trying to
Yeah.
figure out how her features go, and I feel that her eyes is a little bit, you know, too far apart. Her lips are a little bit too small. I use the liquify tool a lot.
I was gonna
Um,
say, is that what just happened there? Was the liquify tool?
yeah, yeah. Like
That's amazing.
I think it is my one of my bad habits in that because
Uh-oh.
I don't draw very well. I don't draw very well, so I always have to like find um, the way things look through Liquify by changing things. But
Okay.
you know, beauty of Photoshop, right? Um, so I start like painting her eyes in, her eyeballs in, trying to figure out you know how her eyes are gonna look. Um, and this is the part where she looks like an ugly alien for a while again.
It looks like you keep flipping it back and
yeah.
forth.
I like how
Yes,
you flip the
so
axis.
Yeah, it's mostly for me to get my proportions right.
Gotcha. That's what Peter said too on his stream.
Yeah, it's a
upside
good
down. Yeah,
it's a very quick, easy way to like make sure that your proportions look right.
well, there you go.
And I
There's
do
your
it
pro
very
tip.
frequently because I don't do line work.
Well, now I imagine you're pretty proficient in your hotkeys and able to just hit a couple buttons and it flips it or whatever, and just be able to do that just on the fly really quickly.
Yeah, so I do. I mean, I don't use anything more besides the flip canvas button and like the eye drop tool, and and undo basically, and that's pretty
Gotcha.
much.
Undo.
Yeah.
I undo a lot. Photoshop has spoiled me basically, and this is why I don't do traditional anymore. So this is the point where I realized that her hair is not really looking right perspective wise, but I don't really want to deal with that, so I go back to rendering her face. So I try like giving her a little bit more shadow, highlights and shadow in the eyes, and adding a little bit more definition to her nose and cheeks and stuff. I try to add irises to her to see if it works. A lot of my process, as I mentioned, is trying things and realizing they don't work and then deleting the layer. At another point, I think I tried to put on eyelashes on Toph and it just did not work out. She just looks really bad. So I just deleted that as well.
But again, that's the cool thing about Photoshop is you can easily just go back and say, "Oh, I don't like that." Yeah. If you were actually doing a painting, I'm sure that there's a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah, like I admire traditional artists a lot because it's a single drawing and then they paint it and that's done. And I just don't do that. I just like here again, I completely ignore the line work that changed the position of her body. Right. And then I realized that I tried this airbrush thing on her cheek and then I realized that it's not looking very good. And then I finally try to work on why her hair isn't looking the way that I want it to be. And then I go back to rendering her face again because I don't want to deal with it. So, yeah, I love that. You see that a lot, like me doing things halfway and then going back to rendering her face. But anyway, I managed to get her hair right. I think this is the proper perspective on how her hair should be. Okay. And then this is the part where I add eyelashes to Toph. And I let it sit for a while and I realized that it just is not working. Toph is a tomboy and there is no way that she puts mascara on her eyes to have them so well defined.
Yeah. Now, was your work ethic pretty crazy at working for like the big studios? Were they like pretty hard on you, like you had to really pump this stuff out quickly?
Yes. During for particular studios anyway, there was one where I had to create a fully rendered painting in like 4 hours, and that burned me out for 2 weeks.
Oh, I bet.
If management is good in the particular studio that you work at, you wouldn't have that kind of problem. I had that for one studio, but for others, it seemed to be they had it on top. Okay. And this is the part where I redraw her hand like about a dozen times because I don't know what I'm doing. So I wanted to do it like a fist because Toph's kind of the normal way that she airbends is, earthbends is using her fists, but it just didn't look right. So I wound up changing it into kind of an open palm pointing at the sky.
Yeah.
So yeah,
more rendering.
So we actually got a really great question in here that I deal with from time to time as well. But does Photoshop ever crash on you in the middle of your painting and you lose your work?
Yes, all the time.
Oh no.
Adobe!
All the time. You just kind of get very proficient to control S-ing your work, basically. You just do it after every other step.
That was just mentioned in the chat. Yes, control S is your friend.
Look at that. Even like the details when you zoom in like that are fantastic. It really does look like it's on a canvas.
Yeah, it's mostly because of the brushes that I use. A lot of people tell you that, not a lot, but you know, there are certain artists that tell you that brushes don't matter. They absolutely do. Um, and it's kind of like if you want to look oil, have it look oily, you got to use a brush that looks oily and it's not made completely digital. Uh,
Right.
so yeah, I start rendering her um, clothes. I realized that the wind is kind of moving her sleeves, so it has to move that way. And then after that, I changed my mind and I delete it, um, as I always do with every painting that I do. And this is the point where I need to render that arm, but I don't want to do it, so I'm rendering everything else. Uh,
Well,
and
it's very cool that like you're that you keep saying that you change your mind on a lot of things.
yeah,
And I love that because I mean, you have that freedom to change your mind. And
yeah,
it
absolutely.
yeah, you can really perfect your art by having that freedom.
I do think, I mean, it's both a blessing and a curse in that you can, throughout the whole process, you can kind of find what you're looking for, versus traditional, where, you know, if the line is on the page, it's on the page, right?
Right.
And by the same time, traditional kind of gives you, like, I mean, I keep going back to Peter Wynn. He is absolutely a god at what he does, and you know, I cannot absolutely ever mimic the way that he does line. You know, his stuff is just so beautiful. But you know, if I tried to do it, it would just look terrible.
Yeah. Well, just you're two different artists, in my opinion. I think you just have
Right.
different styles and your own unique way of doing it too.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So anyway, for this hand, actually, I wound up looking at reference to get this hand working, and it just was not working. So I wound up not using a reference. So this is kind of an inverse of the previous question, which is sometimes having a lack of reference might actually make the painting better. I mean, specifically for this hand. But for most other things, her face, Toph's face, was referenced with
Okay.
by a. I was in a 90s Lucia rabbit hole, and I found my girl crush,
There you
uh,
go.
of this old Chinese actress that I used to admire. So I kind of took reference of her face
That's cool.
to paint Toph's
Nice.
face.
Now, have you seen an uptick in popularity or more requests now that Avatar is on Netflix? Has that become kind of a thing for you?
Um, I don't really get a lot of requests because I do my own thing most of the
Right.
time. But I did think that you know, since Avatar is out, it was a good time to paint Toph, which I hadn't done before.
Yeah, good timing. It's
Yeah.
coming out great too.
So I think this is the part where I lighten the background and it's almost done. And I do use a bit of photo to add the rock
Oh, I
special
see that. Yeah,
effects
yeah.
in a little bit. I
Okay.
add more highlights and all that. Um,
And while that's happening, we do have another question. Nerdy Curious just said, I'm not sure if this has already been answered, but where do you get your brush palettes?
yeah, so the oil brushes are from Greg Rukowski. I think if you search his name, GregRutkowski, Greg Rutkowski. He has oil brushes that he sells on Gumroad, and that's basically most of the brushes that I use. Uh, Above that list, I have a folder called Faves, and it's basically a bunch of brushes that I've cobbled together over the years. There's the normal hard round brush that I thank you. The normal heart round brush that I use. I'll go back to it actually,
Yeah.
to talk a little bit. Oops.
So Mark was asking, how many layers do you have on average? What'd you say?
Um, this was considered a normal sketch for me, so this was probably about maybe 20, 25.
Wow. Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
Bigger paintings, I usually have somewhere about 100, 150. Basically, as many as I can get until my computer craps out. Uh,
Yeah.
I have a love-hate relationship with that. Sometimes, some days I'll just have like 300 layers, and then in the next piece I go, I don't want to do that anymore. Let's just go in one layer, and I do one layer.
Wow.
So
That's risky too.
I know, right? But like I'm thinking, I was trying to justify it, saying that it's traditional work. They work on one layer, so just do that. Do one layer. But yeah, my brushes, the Faves brush basically is just a regular hard round. There's an airbrush in it. There is a particular brush here. In Chinese, it's called Sunbi, which I found on, I don't know, media share. I don't remember, but this is, I wish I could help you with this brush, but this is literally my favorite brush to use. It is very versatile. It can do hard, it can do soft, it can do square, it can do round, basically anything. But yeah, that's basically the main set that I use. I have a lot of other preset brushes that do like foliage stems and rocks and stuff, but I don't normally use those. It's mostly this whole set.
It's
and
amazing.
So that time lapse we just saw, how long did this take?
4 hours.
Okay.
Mark says, "Wow, that's just a sketch."
It is just a sketch for me. Because my work takes about 2 or 3 weeks to finish. So for something to be completed in a day, for me is a big accomplishment.
Okay.
Well, we've got like 10 minutes. You want to whip one of these up?
Yeah, right. Yeah, see what we can do in 10 minutes.
I don't think I can. No, I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding.
No, just pretend I'm Universal and you have a deadline for, the new ride.
Well, I can show you a bunch of other stuff that I've worked on.
Yeah, let's see your paintings.
That's very cool.
So,
I never saw this movie.
Brave?
But yeah,
I've only
Brave.
watched it once, but yeah.
I love the artwork.
God. Tinkerbell. Wow.
Thank my lady.
Yeah, so this is just, I think the first part is just all the Disney Women series, which...
There's the bloody feet, yeah.
Yeah, so Mulan
Heck
is
yeah, look at that one.
So,
I like because she's almost in smoke. I love it. Yeah.
Most of these were, like I said, kind of trying to capture the princesses
Mandy Moore
in positions of power, or to remember what made them like so memorable, as Tiana. And I think after this is the Final Fantasy villain series, which I wanted to go into have a more psychological look into what made the Final Fantasy villains.
Right.
So this is kind of a quick process of
my
Beauty and
goodness.
Beast piece.
What's amazing is you're showing these pieces and our numbers are going up and up and up. People keep coming in here to see our artwork. Wow.
So yeah.
The light work too is actually absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah, that was, oops. I'm sorry, I unplugged my microphone. My headphones.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
That's me. That's my life.
That is you.
Sorry.
With your long hair right now.
Oh, no worries. I know, right?
Yeah, and this was My Hero Academia.
Whoa!
I did
Which is
this
super popular, super hot right now.
I'm actually looking into starting My Hero Academia. Sailor Moon.
Good. Incredible.
Everybody says it's fantastic. So I'm going to have to look into it. I keep seeing the pops and I'm like, you know what? I think I might just look into this.
Yes. I think it's, if you like those kind of school teaching you how to become powerful, kind of like Harry Potter.
Right.
I think you will like it a lot.
Yeah.
This was all done for 6 fan arts. So, I asked people on Patreon what they wanted me to draw, and these were like essentially the 6 people.
Oh, cool.
I love that Cloud was one of them.
Yes.
Yeah. I always enjoyed because Final Fantasy VII was like my introduction as a kid to like what cyberpunk worlds are like and whatnot, and I've loved cyberpunk ever since then.
Right.
I love castles. Yeah. This is my jam right there.
Yeah, castles are rad.
Especially dystopian castles like that.
So all the work here is actually for The Tempest and the Fire, which is my own Beauty and the Beast retelling. So
nice.
Yeah, so this is all original work compared to the previous ones.
Oh, yes. Now this is my kind of jam here. Heck yeah, man. It's like a metal album cover. I love it. I love the color on this one.
This color is just mind blowing. Oh my goodness, even this one, jeez.
So because I did environments for theme parks, I can also do environments, even though I don't really like doing them a lot.
Yeah.
So these are kind of interior, exterior pieces with
But you do
environments.
great with them.
Thank
So,
you.
I love them personally.
I'm sorry. I self-deprecate a lot. I really should.
Yeah, take the compliment.
Thank you.
Yeah, a few
Thank you very
people
much.
in the chat are appreciating your honesty and describing your work.
Right, yeah. Because they're a lot of our fans are aspiring artists as well, and it's great for them to be like not always to think that every artist thinks that they're the best on earth. It's like no, everyone has their doubts and stuff, and it's to push through them and continue on.
Right. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is that for me, talent doesn't really exist. I picked up a pencil when I was 23, and that was the first time I did art.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just kept at it and wound up doing stuff like this. So there's really no, you can't start too late. There is no time limit on what you want to do. You just have to keep practice. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Mulan one is really amazing just for the movement behind it. You can feel the movement in that piece, and I don't know. It's just I don't know. I just love this stuff, man. I love seeing different artists and the different things that they can do.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Too. Yeah. Lots of. Do you have an end date for your Patreon for the book?
I'm gonna say in about 2 or 3 years. It's still a long way off. But yeah, it is very much a work in progress. I update Tempest in the Fire every 3 weeks because I finish a piece every 3 weeks. And I think right now on Patreon, at least, we are in the middle of Act 2, and we're about to finish it in about by the end of the year, I think. So if you want to pledge on Patreon to get early access to all the stuff that I do, you can go to patreon.com/artofelaine.ho. If you want to get any of the Disney Women series, it's on my shop. It's shop.artofelaine.ho.com. I think there was a question asking about the numbered pieces.
Okay.
About the
if we ordered I missed
full
that.
Disney, no, it's fine. If you ordered the full Disney collections, will the art prints have matching numbers? No, the full Disney collection is a 11 by 17 open edition print that has been collated together. It is not a limited edition print, so there are no numbers on it.
Okay.
I think I only have one copy left of that collection, so if you want that.
Wow.
Copy left, chat.
Exclusive.
Now, is this your retelling of Beauty and the Beast that we just saw?
Yes.
Okay,
this is
so that's
my
your thing. This is it right here. That's his castle.
Yes.
Awesome. Oh, I'm totally invested in this now. This is amazing.
So yeah, it is a little bit different in that it is set in the Renaissance. Obviously, it's set in a Renaissance-inspired fantasy world, so it has its own magic system and stuff like that.
Okay.
And the castle is essentially situated in the middle of a desert that doesn't grow anything, and basically the beast makes a deal with my beauty. Her name is Eris, to kind of bring back life to his land because she knows how to use magic.
So that's him in the red coat.
Oh my
Correct.
God.
Okay.
But
I'm loving the story.
He has more sinister intentions in mind beyond just restoring life to his desert. So she kind of has to choose between, whether she wants to help him or not.
Oh
so
my God.
Yeah, that's the gist of the Tempest in the Fire. This has been my baby for the last 3 years, so I am very, very proud.
You should be
about it.
I mean, the story, from the little amount that you just gave right there, I'm like invested and I want to know more. And also that piece with the boy and the guitar. What? Was that Coco?
No, that's actually Hadestown. I also love Broadway musicals, so Hadestown was kind of, I think just took me away. I was in New York and watched it, and it's a retelling of the Orpheus and Eurydice myth.
That's the one that won the Tony Award, right? This last year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard great things about it. So hopefully Disney Plus picks that up too, so we can watch that.
Hamilton has been. I've been rewatching Hamilton on Disney Plus for the past 2 weeks, and I love Broadway musicals.
Yeah, it's great. And it's too bad that all these actors now I almost wish they can do more online like that than for all these actors that are probably out of work right now.
Right.
You know, it's disappointing.
Right. Yeah.
All right, man. This is fantastic. We have 2 minutes left.
Yeah. Do you want to kind of promote yourself a little bit? Just let people know where they can find you, where they can find prints from you.
Can they still buy stuff for this?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I have I have limited edition prints of the Final Fantasy Villain series and the Disney Women series on my shop, which is shop.artofelaneho.com.
Okay, doing there now.
There's free shipping above $85, which is essentially the price of a single limited edition.
Okay.
They go for 18 by 24. They're
Nice.
printed on fine art paper. I print them myself essentially on my fancy printer. So everything is kind of handmade. You can find me on Art of Elaine Ho on any social media. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm more casual on Twitter, so I kind of talk about, Singapore stuff, Singapore politics, and being old and all that stuff.
Being old, that's what I talk about.
Oh man,
Yes.
You in Prague.
Love talking about being old.
I love talking about being old.
And it never gets old. That's the best part. God loves you. It seems like.
So if you want more focused artwork, you can go on Instagram. I'm mostly active there. I have a little bit of a Tumblr, but it's kind of.
Yeah, Tumblr's kind of going away these days.
But yeah, that's essentially. Oh, if you want to look for my Beauty and the Beast retelling, you can just go to tempestandthefire.com, where you can see all the artwork that has been released so far.
Okay.
And if give me a follow or something, buy a print. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you for coming
Very
on our
cool.
show. This has been really delightful and amazing to watch your process.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been
Absolutely.
It's been really fun talking to you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
This has. And new artists for me, and I am loving this. I want to know more about this Tempest and Fire. So
Yeah, you kind of gave a great elevator pitch on it. So all right, now
it
I'm
was
invested.
perfect for me.
I've had 4 years to hone this, so
There you go.
so yeah.
There you go.
And we
thank
posted
you.
the various links in the chat to Elaine's shop, as well as the Tempest and the Fire and her social media pages. We really enjoy everybody sticking around and continuing with our secondary artist alley.
Yes.
In just a few minutes, we're going to transfer over to interview with Nerd Portraits as they're talking to local comic shop owner Now or Never Comics in San Diego of how his San Diego Comic-Con is different this year as a comic book store. But Elaine, we really appreciate you sharing your time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Elaine.
Thank you.
You have a good day and a weekend.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
And thank you, everyone in the chat.